Alright, episode 3 was another tearjerker. I didn't cry this time, but oh, I was close. I just honestly was not expecting it to be as emotional as it was, and I loved that the whole theme throughout the episode seemed to be home, which there were so many ways that they explored it, and it was just beautiful, and I cannot wait to get into this episode. So let us talk about episode 3, Death Not Be Proud. So to pick up where we left off last time, Wendigo, our favorite guy, he started the fire in the big house. However, it was not as it seemed. I thought it exploded just because he lit the match. It turns out he fainted from the ether and dropped the match in the chemical. I'm like, that makes so much more sense. I was just kind of going off of what they were showing, but now it makes sense. But yes, no one died in this except for Wendigo and his men. The bugs, Jamie and Claire all got out before the house exploded, so phew. However, we don't end there. Yeah, the house just burns down, and it's honestly one of the saddest moments. That brought some tears to my eyes because you could see Jamie and Claire just watching this beautiful home that they built, all the memories that were in there, just all burning to the ground. And they play the saddest rendition of Fraser's Ridge, like the theme music. And I was like, stop trying to make me cry, Outlander. I can only take it one episode at a time. This season is intense. But yeah, so the house does burn down. However, there are some things that managed to survive, like Claire's surgery journal, Jamie's kilt, thank God. And there were just a few other things as well. Jamie also finds the gold that Arch had been hiding in their home, or Mrs. Bug actually was hiding it, but Arch knew about it, and he and Mrs. Bug were working together not to tell anybody about it. And Jamie does confront him about this, and it does not go well. Yeah, Arch apparently had gotten a hold of the gold. Unintentional rhyme there. And he had split it with Dougal Mackenzie and Hector Cameron, who is Jocasta's one of her husbands. And that was the scene that we had seen a couple seasons ago when Jocasta was fleeing with her husband and daughter. He was taking the gold for himself, so Arch considered him a traitor. But Arch himself was dedicated to keep the gold safe, and he wanted it to return back to, like, good fortune for the clan in Scotland. I want to further elaborate on the gold. So this was actually the Stuart gold that came from France, and this is what Dougal, Hector, and Arch split among the three of them. And there was just a lot of debate about what should be done with the gold because apparently it was too late for it to be used in the rebellion, and that's where it all came from. But Jamie did not like that Arch had been keeping the secret, that they were kind of putting them in danger having something like this hidden in their home, and he tells him, like, you and your wife can leave, we're done. Yeah. I was not expecting that storyline to play out already, but it actually really came full on in this episode. So Arch tells Merdina. It's a different name, I'm not used to it. He tells her that they've been kicked out, and she tells him, like, no, this isn't right. We have done so many things for them. This is our time. So later, we see what looks like Mr. Bug trying to find the rest of the gold in the burned down remains of the house. And Jamie and Ian confront Mr. Bug, and the second that Mr. Bug shoots at Jamie, Ian immediately shoots an arrow at Mr. Bug. However, it was not Mr. Bug. It was Mrs. Bug. And Ian feels horrible about just killing her. He didn't know it was her. She was wearing his coat, so it was hard for him to know. But he feels terrible because she was such a kind woman to him and took care of him, and Claire tries to console him later on, saying like he did it to protect Jamie and he didn't do anything wrong per se. But yeah, he just has this immense feeling of guilt. And during the funeral for Mrs. Bug, which my prediction was half true. She didn't die in the fire, but they actually did follow the book I read. And they kept the subplot, and this is how she dies. But yes, she's the one in the casket. And Mr. Bug does actually show up to the funeral, and he asks Claire to sing Ave, or just to sing, and Claire sings Ave Maria. And this is actually Katrina Balfe singing, and she's an amazing singer. I know she has sung, like, back in season 1. She sang a little bit in season 2, but it was kind of like a sad situation. But, I mean, this was a sad situation too, but just in a different context. But yes, Katrina Balfe can sing. Like, it was gorgeous. So yes, the funeral proceeds, and then Ian goes to Mr. Bug afterwards, and he tells Mr. Bug that he's the one who killed Merdina. And oof. I mean, I know it was the noble thing to do, but he should have known Mr. Bug was not going to react well. Like, Ian offered Mr. Bug the chance at revenge, and he hands him a knife. However, Mr. Bug doesn't want to kill Ian. He says it would be too easy. And he mentions, like, killing Rollo, and Ian's like, no, not what I meant. And he says, that's right, that doesn't compare to losing one's wife. And he says when Ian has something worth taking, then that's when he will strike. That was the end of Arch's arc for now. We will probably see him in the future. I'm not positive exactly how it happens in the books, but it's not going to be good if he follows up on his promise for revenge. Yep. Jamie and Claire are trying to scout for a new location for their new home, and they also kind of talk about where to bury each other, which let's hope we never see that. But there's a little bit of foreshadowing here, because I believe they will follow through with a subplot revolving around Jamie. And he mentioned something about his body might not even be buriable, because he might be lost to the war, lost to drowning. You guys who read the books know what I'm referring to. But another time. Also, the Ridge is also helping Claire and Jamie gather things to help them get through losing their home. And Lizzie and Josiah also mentioned that they couldn't find Outso. And I know we were going to see him again, but I have a cat, so it hits. It just hits. But yeah, we'll get into that. Jamie also mentions that he wants to take Ian back to Scotland, because he had promised Jenny that he would bring Ian back one day, and he wants to follow up on that promise. So we are going to see them head to Scotland, which I know that does happen. I don't know if it's going to immediately happen, because it looks like there's a lot of war stuff coming up, so I don't know if that's before they go to Scotland. It has to be for it to follow the plot of the book. Yeah. Anyway. I can only figure this out so much without reading the books. So yes, they are going back to Scotland, which is exciting. And we are going to see Ian and Jenny again. Jenny will be played by a different actress this season, which I am curious to see how that goes. I'm sure she's going to do great. It's just going to be weird seeing somebody else play Jenny when you just are so used to Laura Donnelly playing her. She was phenomenal as Jenny, and I'm sad she didn't get to return this season. I know she's got a busy schedule right now, and things have changed since she was on the show. So yeah, I'm glad we got to see her when we did, and it'll be interesting to see the new actress play her. And it'll just be nice to see Ian and Jenny again. So Jamie and Claire prepare to leave for Scotland. They melt some of the gold, and then they hide the rest in a cave that Jamie and Jemmy had found at one point. It's called the Spaniard's Cave because there is a Spaniard skeleton in there, which I don't know how that got there. And at one point, Jamie is telling Claire that he had a dream of Bree and the family in the future. And he mentions that they walked up to a house and they were greeted by, guess who? Fiona, who we do see in this episode, because we get to see a look into Bree and Roger's lives back in the 80s. And I just am so... It's always weird when you don't see the future / present for a while, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, right, this is about time travel. But yes, it was nice to see them back in that time. And Jamie also mentions that Mandy's doing well, which she is. She was able to have her operation, and she is a healthy baby now. Thank God. And Jamie also mentions that Jemmy was playing with an object, and he describes it, which Claire says is a telephone, which we do actually see. And I just love that Jamie's having these future dreams now. It's interesting. Does that mean he has... I guess in a sense he does have a connection to the future through his family, but has he always had like this sense of visions and like predictions, like just being able to see the future? And it seems to be a new thing. I assume this was in the books. I'm not positive, but yeah, I like this. I like this aspect that Jamie can see his family in his dreams. It's a nice touch. Speaking of Bree and Roger, they, like I said, are back in the future, and they have gone back to the Wakefield house, which Fiona and her husband are now living in with their children. And they're visiting, and they have a package that has arrived. And on the box is labeled Jemmy's full name. Inside the box are letters to Bree, written by Jamie and Claire, of course. And throughout the episode, they're reading the letters, and it's matching the events that we see. And they learn about what happened with the fire, and after they learn about it being because of one of Bree's matches, Roger realizes... At first I thought he was mocking Bree for starting the fire, and I'm like, it's not funny. But he makes a point that it was a different date, and the house has been burned down. Claire and Jamie survived, so the fire that happened in the obituary didn't happen. This means that Brianna has changed history because of her presence, which I'm a little skeptical. I feel like this is probably where the storyline is going to end, but there's still like 3 more years of the 1770s, so they could technically have a new house before the 70s are over. I don't know if there's going to be another fire, but I'm genuinely hoping this was the end of that storyline because it's a good ending. I like the idea that Bree could change history. At one point, Bree and Roger take a drive up to Lallybroch, where they get to take a little peek inside the house. They are actually doing construction on it. They assume somebody owns it at this point. However, a real estate agent drives up and she asks them if they're interested, pointing to a sign that says that it's for sale. So Bree and Roger will probably be moving into Lallybroch, which is exciting. Obviously it was going through some renovations, but I'd like to see how they have their touch on the home. And just to see Jemmy and Mandy running through the halls there, that's going to be so wonderful. And it's also going to match up with Jamie and Claire and Ian being there. So I love that parallel. I also want to point out, at one point when Bree and Roger were sitting on the steps of Lallybroch, Bree was actually staring at the archway where usually the entrance is, and Roger could tell like she was hoping that Claire and Jamie would walk through, and I love that that mirrored like the moment when Claire was sitting on the steps back in season 2 and she saw Jamie standing there, and you could even say when Jamie saw Claire in the yard there. But yeah, I loved that parallel. That was really nice. With Claire and Jamie gone from the ridge, they have made their plans. Lizzie and the Beardsley twins are going to look after the house, or at least the new property that they're building. And Lizzie is pregnant again. And we also get to see her first child, which already maybe about a year old, so some time has passed. And she's just so sad because she said that Claire and Jamie are leaving. She even says if the baby's a girl, she's going to name her Claire, which is so sweet. As Claire and Jamie are heading out of Fraser's Ridge with Ian, Claire hears meowing, and it is indeed Adso. She goes over to him and holds him, and this scene was like, I'm like, do I cry or do I not cry in this moment? She decides to set him free because she knows that he'll be fine, but I guess she's basically letting him like decide if he wants to stay out in the woods or if he wants to return home. And it's just so hard for her to leave him, and that scene was like, it was emotional. Like I said, I have a cat, so I can relate. But she also wants to return home to Fraser's Ridge one day, and Jamie says that he doesn't know when, but they will return someday. He didn't think they'd go back to Scotland, but there they are. But yeah, just that ending was so emotional. She even finds the marker that Jamie had placed on the land back in season 4, and it's just such a symbolic moment because, like I said, the theme throughout this episode seemed to be the idea of home. What is home? Is it where you go? Is it where you stay? Is it who you're with? And Claire even mentions to Jamie, because earlier he had been praying, like, let me be enough. And she tells him, you are enough. You will always be enough. And, see, I'm getting teary-eyed again. Just such a beautiful statement. See, this show is going to wreck me this season. We're only on episode 3. And each episode has been emotional. A lot has happened in 3 episodes. I'm genuinely impressed with the direction this is all going in. And I feel like we've already covered so much. It's like we only have 5 episodes left, which, it's crazy. Like, this is gonna go fast again. But also there's still so much more in store, and already so much has happened. It's amazing. The season has been beautiful so far, and I am in love with it. I have loved every season. Some maybe haven't been as strong as others, but this season I feel like is one of their strongest. And I really am looking forward to see what the next 5 episodes cover. Plus, we have a part 2 to the 7th season. Like, wow. We're covering a lot. But yeah, let me know what you all thought of the episode. What was your favorite moment? Please go ahead and leave a comment. Like the video if you can. And I love to interact with you guys. I love getting to talk about Outlander. There's just such a community feel to the show, and I like to have the community feel in my videos too. I hope I can bring that to you all. And yeah, I want to keep doing this as long as I can. I will say that I am going to get a new laptop soon, so I don't know for sure. I might have issues uploading videos for the rest of the season. I'm not positive, but I'm going to do my best to bring these every week. 5 more, hopefully I can do it. But yeah, my laptop's just been dying, so it's time for a new one. New chapter, just like in Outlander. But yes, hopefully I will see you all soon. I appreciate you all, and see you next week for episode 4, hopefully. Alright, have a good week, everyone. Bye!